Okay, well, good morning, everyone. This is Ann Zimmerman. I just want to thank you all for taking some time this morning to go through the training webinar for the competition. And we should have some other people joining us on the call. And I'll just do a little bit of an introduction here first, and then we'll get started. Also, there should be quite a few people on the call this morning, so we will mute you during the presentation if that's okay. But we will have lots of opportunities for questions during the training, or you can always send a question in the little chat box in the bottom right-hand corner. So first and foremost, thank you so much for volunteering. For those of you who aren't familiar with the KC STEM Alliance, we are about a 6-year-old initiative in Kansas City. It was a collaborative initiative that was started to inspire more young people to pursue careers in STEM. So we work with industry and education partners across the region to support STEM initiatives in Kansas City. That includes 2 large nationally recognized programs, including Project Lead the Way, which is an in-school curriculum, and FIRST Robotics, which is done in the after-school space. And I won't go into a lot of details about the STEM Alliance, but please feel free to check out our website if you're curious to learn a little bit more about what we do in the region. But we're very passionate about trying to inspire more students in the K-12 space to build a pipeline of future STEM workers. So the students that have been invited to compete in these 2 competitions have taken up to 4 years of Project Lead the Way courses in either engineering or biomedical science. Those courses are taken in conjunction with college preparatory math and science, and they are a pathway that culminates in a senior capstone course. So the engineering students go through the full design process and work on one in-depth project all year long. The biomed students have a choice. They can either do a product innovation, conduct an experiment, do a job shadow, or create a public service announcement in the public health area. In contrast to the engineering project, which is done in class as their whole year-long course, the biomed project is done as an independent assignment outside of class. And it is only one of many projects that they do during the year. So I just do that by way of introduction for the biomed coaches that are on, or judges that are on the call, because the biomed projects are not done quite to the same depth as the engineering projects. And as we will talk about during the training, we will be using a rubric to evaluate the projects that is based on the engineering design project process, but has been modified to apply to the experimental design process. So the biomed students that are able to enter this competition are only projects that are either experimental design or an innovative product design. So if some of you are coming to the showcase next month, you'll see that there are quite a few other students that have done a project either as a job shadow or those projects in this competition. And in both classes, these students develop an electronic portfolio to document their project, and that is uploaded into the Innovation Portal technology. And this technology started, or the portal was developed about 3 years ago, 4 years ago actually. We were one of the second cities to actually host a competition. So this is the 3rd year for the engineering competition and the 2nd year for the biomed competition. And we'll talk a little bit more in depth about how the portal works once we get into the training. So just a quick review of the timeline, and we'll talk about this again at the end, but you will be receiving the student portfolios in your Innovation Portal account on April 1st. You'll have about 2 weeks to look at those, and all those reviews needed to be completed by the 15th because I have a really short turnaround to finalize the winners before we go into the Project Lead the Way Senior Showcase on April 18th. So if at any point in the next couple of weeks you find that you have to go out of town for work or something, comes up, please just let me know as soon as possible if you're not going to be able to judge your portfolios so I can find somebody else to judge those. But we will be announcing the winners at the showcase, which is April 18th, and I will be sending all of you an invitation to that. You are more than welcome to join us. Would love to see you. I think some of you have signed up to be reviewers at the showcase also, so that would be great. And we will announce the winners there. Also, last year the judges were curious to see the top winners. So at the very end of the competition, I will also give you access to view the winning portfolios so you can get a sense of what the top projects look like. So as always, we are very, very interested in your feedback. So please touch base with me at any time during the process. If you have any questions or some feedback on the portfolios you're looking at, that is kind of on a broad base, very curious to hear that. And then currently we have judges online that are doing either engineering or biomed competitions. So if you are a biomed judge, I would just ask you to stay on at the end of the call for just a couple of kind of qualifiers about your judging process. So at this point, I would like to introduce Elliot Mork, who is our primary contact at the National Project Lead the Way office, and he oversees the Innovation Portal competitions. So Elliot, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Ann. So I want to do a quick check, both that you can hear me and that you can see my screen moving a little bit, and that you can find the chat box. So if you could, please just go ahead and send me a chat in the chat box to let me know that I successfully unmuted and that you can hear me. The chat box is also the best place to put a question throughout the presentation. Looks like everyone's seeing me, so I successfully unmuted. Thank you. So if you have a question throughout the presentation, we also have Ryan Harkleroad here with us, and he's going to be kind of monitoring some of the questions in the chat box, and then we'll pause every once in a while to address those questions that come in through the chat box. But just with such a large number of people on the line, we're going to, if we have any audio issues, we're going to mute and then just take questions from the chat box. This session is already being recorded, so if at any point when you don't get the access to the portfolios until April 1st, and so there might be a few days in between now and when you get the portfolios. You might need to look back and reference something that we covered. That will be provided to you in a YouTube link of this exact recording, so you can go back and say, well, I want to remember that one thing you said at this point. You'll have access to that YouTube clip. And Ann will send that out maybe a day or two after this training. Sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to have that process and then upload to YouTube. But let's go ahead and dive into the specific training for the Innovation Portal. So these two steps you've probably already completed. The first step is to make sure your browser is up to date. You can visit whatismybrowser.com to check what your browser is, and when you visit the Innovation Portal for the first time, it'll do a check to make sure your browser is compatible. Something to note is that the Internet Explorer, Microsoft Internet Explorer, or I think what's called the new name it has is Edge. It breaks a lot on the Innovation Portal. It's got some compatibilities that don't work on the Innovation Portal, so I would suggest using a different browser. If you're on an Apple device, you just use the Safari browser. On a Windows device, I'd suggest using either Chrome or Mozilla Firefox. Those are the browsers that we test to make sure that are compatible on the Innovation Portal, and we don't test the Microsoft products. So I would use one of those web browsers as you use the Innovation Portal. So I'm going to cover a few more things today that you haven't seen yet, and that you won't be able to see until you actually get the portfolios assigned to you. I'm going to show you I'm going to give you an overview of how the online system works, how the competition works, what Ann's role is, and what your role is in a kind of a bigger picture. Then I'm going to cover how to access portfolios that are assigned to you, and again, that you'll get those assigned to you on April 1st. You won't have them yet, but once they're assigned to you, I'll show you how to access them. I'm going to show you about the rubric you'll be using. The rubric was pretty extensively developed among professional engineering educators, both at the K-12 level and at the collegiate level. So it's a pretty robust tool that you're going to be utilizing, including some really exciting scored examples to use as a baseline to set expectations for what exactly student work, how it should be evaluated in a standard method using the same rubric. I'm going to show you how to access that rubric. Then I'm going to jump to showing you how to access the scored examples. And those are those scored examples that you can use as a resource. In a virtual format, we sometimes liken this format to like a science fair project that you can judge in person at a school. But it's a little bit different because at a science fair project in person, you could walk around and see all of the work and kind of gauge an expectation for the level and quality of work in the room. And then the ones you're specifically assigned to judge, you'd be able to kind of use that as a calibration and judge it based on that scale. You don't have that on a virtual system, so you'll only have the 3 to 5 portfolios that are assigned to you. The thing to base the thing to set your baseline expectation of will be these scored examples. So you'll have access to actual student work that professional rubric evaluators have evaluated and decided that this is the perfect example of a score of 5 maybe, and a commentary for why they've evaluated it as a 5. So it's a really good tool to make sure your evaluation is standard and the same method that everyone else is using. And then I'll show you how to submit your scores to Anne. The judging is due April 15th, so you'll need to send your scores in to her by the 15th to make sure that she has the final, the top 3 determined and then the winner determined. And I think she has a pretty tight turnaround this year, so if you can't get it done by April 15th, just let her know in advance. And I think there's a few things she can do, but it's good to know in advance of that, not on April 15th. If you run into any issues on the innovation portal, you can send an email to innovation@pltw.org. If it's something specific to the competition, I would suggest going to Anne first. But if it's something like you can't get logged in, you can go directly to innovation@pltw.org as well, and we'll be able to assist you to make sure to help you out with whatever issue you're having. So the first thing we're going to cover is getting connected to the competition. The first step is to create your account, which you probably already have on the innovation portal. Then tell Anne what email that you actually registered with. So with that same email address that you registered with, she can send you an invitation. So you can be on the lookout for an invitation coming from Anne to get connected to this year's competition. You'll have to accept that invitation whether you've judged prior years or this is your first year. Because this is a new instance of the competition, the 2017 version. Just because you judged last year the 2016 doesn't mean that you're already connected to the 2017 version, so you'll need to accept the invitation. That should come as an email alert and also in the notification section of the innovation portal that I can show you once we dive into the innovation portal. And then the last step you need to do is accept the invitation, and you can do that through email. I know the email invitations that are sent out, if you click it once, it will work. And you'll be inserted into the competition. If you click that link again, it's only a one-time use link. You might hit a 404 or 500 error, and it might look like it's broken. What that probably means is you're already in the competition. If you hit that error, just send an email to Anne and ask if you're in the competition. You probably already are listed as a judge. So competition in general, what's the big picture here? What's going on? So the student process, what they go through, what they're going through is they're registering their work. They can work in groups of any size. I think this competition requires at least 2 students to work together. They first register their interest in the competition, and then they submit. So their submission window is March 14th through 31st, so that's why you're getting them on the April 1st. So they have a window of time that's open right now where they could submit their final work, but they have to have it in by the end of March. And so then once they have it on, and then we can provide you those portfolios once they've turned it into the competition. So they submit all those portfolios to the competition. It's quite a few. I think last year there's over 200 submissions for both competitions included, but at least 100, quite a few pieces of student work in these portfolios that are put into this competition. Then on April 1st, to get you in assignments, we're going to take 3 to 5 of those portfolios and assign them to you. Each portfolio will be evaluated at least 3 times, and so we try to recruit as many judges as there are students to the competition so that each portfolio can be reviewed 3 times, and each judge has 3 portfolios to review. And that range, we say a range of 3 to 5 because if we have a little bit less judges than students, then we'll need judges to evaluate a few more than 3. So we're going to do that in an automated process on April 1st. Once we make sure we have all the submissions into the competition, we're going to sign those out, and you're going to get your 3 to 5 submissions. Then at the end of the scoring period, you'll have a 2-week scoring period where you'll be able to review student work. You're going to score these and then submit your scores back to Anne, the competition administrator. At any time, you can communicate with her to make sure, just to let her know what's going on if you hit any questions as you're evaluating student work. So a portfolio, how is that created on the Innovation Portal? One person can create a portfolio on the Innovation Portal. There's no special type of accounts right now on the Innovation Portal, so even you could create a portfolio as a judge, but one student creates a portfolio and then they can invite project partners to share with equal access to that portfolio. And they can invite as many people as they want. Typically we see teams in sizes from 2 to 4 though. They can invite their teacher as a reviewer. So the teacher might not have edit access, but they'll be able to see the student work to make sure that they're staying up to date with their work. And these students on the engineering side at least have been working since the early fall on these projects, and so teachers probably have check-in points with them to make sure that they're making adequate progress throughout the year. Students can also invite project mentors, so during that process they could have a professional person, maybe an engineer, review their work and give them suggestions for how to move forward, and then those project mentors can be sent a review, which is the exact same thing that you're going to be using to evaluate their final project. So those project mentors are using that same rubric to evaluate the student work to say, maybe the work is at a 3 right now, and if you want to bump it up to a 4, here's some additional work you need to do, and document it. And so those project mentors are able to provide feedback to students throughout the year. Once they finished up their portfolio, they can actually submit it as a submission to a competition. It could be a competition or another opportunity. There's other things we use competitions for market research analysis and stuff like that. And that student, if eligible, could apply to multiple competitions. So you'll see mostly in the Kansas City area that their students are doing the work for their capstone course and then submitting it to this competition. But there are some national competitions that have happened as well, and so students could submit that same work to multiple competitions. And they can create multiple portfolios. You're not limited on the Innovation Portal how many portfolios you can actually create. All right, so with that, we are going to dive into the Innovation Portal. I want to pause for some questions to see if anyone has questions so far about anything we've covered. All right, doesn't look like there's any questions. So the first step is to log in, and I just did that here, sharing my screen, and so you just visit the Innovation Portal and there's a sign-in window on the upper right. So the default screen will be on the portfolio creation screen. This account doesn't have any portfolios, so this is probably what it's going to look like for you. If you create a portfolio, then it will change the look of it and you'll see the current portfolios that you have attached to your account. So let's go first on this left-hand menu bar, and let's go to My Notifications. This is the area where all of your email notifications are documented here, and you can either use an email and click a special link, or you can dive into this notification window to see where your invitation stands. So you'll get a notification here to become attached to the competition as a judge, and you'll get a notification every time a portfolio is assigned to you. So this is an example of a notification of a portfolio being assigned to this account. I got assigned this portfolio name for the Opportunity Training Example Competition. For your account, it will say the 2017 Kansas City competition here, and the portfolio name will be whatever student work that you are assigned. So this is where you'll see those notifications. You can also go in here and accept being a judge for the competition. There'll just be a button that says View Invitation, and then you can accept the judging invitation. If you didn't get the email, you can just log in and accept the invitation from Anne right here. So let's go here to the left menu bar again and go to Opportunities. This is where all the competitions live on the Innovation Portal. We can see several competitions that are active and live right now for student submission. We have the two 2017 Kansas City area competitions, with the biomedical one and the engineering design competition. We also have the 2017 PLTW engineering design competition. That's a national competition eligible to any PLTW student. And then there's one live in Minnesota as well. And then there's two other ones that we use for sharing final portfolios of students to get some patent research done for winning projects. And so we use these two to share with researchers to get that student work reviewed by WISC. So these two competitions are the current ones for this year. However, when you get the portfolios assigned to you, they are not going to be here anymore, because only the competitions that are currently accepting student submissions are live on this screen. We have two filters. Right now it's current competition, and then there's a button called past competitions. So if we click past, we can see the competitions that are closed and not available for student submission, student work submission currently. This is where the competition, the Kansas City competitions are going to move to once on April 1st, once the students can't submit anymore. So we can see last year's competition, the 2016 competitions live here right now, and we could click into those and see them. The 2016 ones are going to disappear. I'm going to unpublish them as soon as the 2017 ones move to this past page, so you'll only see the 2017 ones here, and this is where you'll actually click. The 2017 competitions will be here, both engineering and the biomedical competitions. For the purposes of the training today, we're going to use the training example competition. It's just one that I've set up so that I can show you and click through the process of judging. So we're going to click into here, but you're going to click into the Kansas City one once you have portfolios assigned to you. So this is the competition. You could read all general information about the Kansas City competition. You could actually do that right now if you wanted to. You just have to go, you wouldn't have to click on past to get to it. You know that you're a judge in the competition if you see this extra bar up here. If you look at a different competition that you're not a judge for, you won't actually see this menu bar here, but you'll be able to read all about the competition. There's not a lot of information here just because this is a training example, and so there doesn't need to be. But what you need to do as a judge once you have portfolios assigned to you is click this reviews button on this menu bar in the upper part. So once we click this, we can see the reviews that are assigned to us. So this account right now has 5 reviews assigned to us and has completed one of them so far and actually sent those scores in. So you're going to be getting some number of portfolios. I think you're going to get somewhere between 3 and 4 for this competition, if I'm not mistaken, but there's a chance you might receive 5. Each of the portfolios will take about an hour to evaluate. So we estimate about 3 to 5 hours total. The first one, I can tell you, is going to take a little bit longer than that, just because the rubric will take some time to read through and understand how to use. But then each portfolio after that will be a little bit quicker, and so the first one will probably be over an hour, and then each one after that might take just under an hour to evaluate once you're familiar with the rubric. So under each one we can see the status. The lawnmower Kickstarter I've already completed. I can see the status here complete. However, I have an active one here that we can go in and start evaluating. So I'm going to click into the cracked iPhone screen. This is a sample portfolio of student work that we use in the scoring examples. So this is the actual student work that we're viewing here. On the right-hand side, we now have a menu for each element of the rubric along the right-hand side here, where the blue one highlighted is the portfolio cover page. So right now we're on the cover page. We can scroll down and view all the student work that they've put on this cover page. There's nothing to evaluate on this cover page, but students sometimes like to put pictures of themselves or some type of summary of their project maybe. You can see whatever type of content they want to put here, they can put here. There's nothing to evaluate. We liken this menu bar over here kind of like a 3-ring binder. So this cover page is maybe that plastic cover part that you could slide a piece of paper in to make it look pretty, but there's really nothing to evaluate of content on the cover page. To find the first page of actual content, we'll go to this right-hand menu bar, hover over A, and click on the A. So now we have the actual student content loaded. So this is like the first tab in that 3-ring binder that we turn to that has actual student content. Before we actually look at the student content, though, let's look at the rubric contents in here. So A, the title of that element in the rubric is Presentation and Justification of the Problem. So to get a sense of what kind of work is going to be evaluated in this section of the rubric, I like to go to the questions here. So you have a few different bullet points, and this is When I talk to students about this, it's kind of like a checklist for them, but for you, what you could use it for is to quickly understand what type of content is going to be covered and evaluated in this element A. For students, they use this as a checklist to make sure they cover all of these pieces within their content, and they load into the portfolio here to cover these checkboxes here. So you can read through that to understand kind of a broad scope of what's being covered, and then below that you have the actual rubric scoring. You have the scores down here. So it's by default on a 5. You're viewing the rubric here. So a score of 0, and then you have a description underneath it, and you have a score of 1 and a description underneath it, and a score of 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 5. You can think about these scores kind of like a staircase. There should be an even step between each step on the stairs. However, unlike a staircase, sometimes you might think student work falls in between them. It kind of can sometimes. So if you think the student work is, if you read the description of a 3 and the description of a 4, you might think that the work falls somewhere between a 3 and a 4. But going back to that staircase, you have to make that decision as the evaluator. Should you put that on shelf 4 or shelf 3, which is it closest to? So you don't need to meet the threshold of every single thing in 4 to get a score of 4. You just have to be closer to a 4 than a 3. And so each one of these should be an even step of difficulty or of shared content in between them, and the actual text descriptor, the text description is designed to have an even step in between them. It's pretty difficult to write a rubric like that, but a lot of work has gone in to make sure those steps are even in this example. The last component that you have of the rubric is exceptionally useful for judges. Say you think it's somewhere between a 3 and a 4. What you could do is go in and click this scored element example for element A and score of 3. Before I click this, keep your attention in the upper left-hand part of my screen, actually. And then when I click this, we're going to open up a new tab in your browser. This could behave a little bit differently in your browser. It might download a PDF. It might open the PDF instead of the Innovation Portal, or it might open a new tab. But hopefully it opens a new tab, and then you're viewing a PDF. So this entire document is only relevant for element A with a score of 3. So what you have here, let's actually go down first. What you have here is actual student work. This is student work that has been submitted to a panel of experts that built the rubric and that teach engineering design, both at a high school and college level, submitted to them, and they decided that this work is a score of 3. So if we go back up, we have their commentary. So this is their actual commentary and thought behind why they scored it a 3. So really useful to you to see the actual student work and then see the commentary of why this specific work gets a score of 3. And this again, jumping back to the science fair analogy, you can use this to set the baseline of expectations. You could look through them if you wanted to in advance. I typically use them to dive in and do higher resolution decisions between student work that I'm evaluating. So it's a highlighted score of 3. You have element A. And then it tells you within the scope of the entire rubric for 0 through 5, the scoring descriptors, and highlights the one that this one describes. And then you have the actual student work. This student work, I think, is about some LED stoplights or traffic lights. And so I think this is a town in the northern part of the United States, and they switched to LED lights because it saves energy. The problem with LED lights is that it saves energy and doesn't heat up. And so the snow can cover it, where a traditional bulb in a traffic light would generate enough heat, which is waste normally, but it would melt snow, and so traffic people can see it. So interesting project. You'll see a lot of interesting projects. There's a high variability between the content that students cover, and so it's kind of enjoyable to see what students are working on and how they're tackling the big projects of the day, which you might not even think about. I didn't think about this before seeing this student work, so pretty neat. To get back over to the Innovation Portal, you can click that other tab, and then you're back here. You can open up A and C3 and toggle between 3 and 4, and then you could open the student work for 4 as well. And so you have the commentary, you have highlights which one it is, and you have the actual student work here as well. So all that information at your fingertips as you review. So, so this is the rubric on the right-hand side. This is only viewing the rubric though. So when I click in 3 and 4, I'm not actually assigning a score here. This is the interface for both judges and students. And so students are using this to read the rubric when they're working on the work, and you're using it to just look at it. For you to actually load a score in, you need to close that out. So I move my mouse to the left, close that right-hand menu bar, and then go down here to this little pen icon. This is especially for you as a judge because you're reviewing it. This is your score sheet. So going back to that science fair analogy again, this is your actual score sheet that you're going to be taking. You're going to take that piece of paper and you're going to turn it into Anne at the end, and then she's going to know what score that you've actually assigned. So we were discussing for this work, we were discussing between a 3 and a 4, assigning that. So let's say we think it's a 3. But then, maybe we're unsure. We can click this little plus icon and we can view the rubric in another way. So we can click 3, we can click 4, and we can actually read the text descriptor again in that rubric. If there's ever blank work, just assign a 0. So it's the score descriptor here. It earns a score of 0, but also if it's blank, earns a score of 0. So you can view that. Sometimes the screen gets a little cluttered though, so you can click X to close that out. So we've assigned a score of 3, and then we can type a comment in here. So everything is saved automatically on the innovation portal every couple microseconds. There's no save button. So this is saved. So if I close this out, maybe click over to B, and then click over to A again and open this up, my score of 3 is saved and my comment is saved here. So there's no save button, it just saves automatically. So let's go ahead and move on from A so we can close that panel. We've taken a look at all the student work. And then go look at B. We can view the rubric, but then to actually click and see the student work, we need to click on B. We can scroll down, see the student work here for element B, what they actually typed in and some images they loaded. Maybe they did a drawing in AutoCAD. Maybe took some pictures of some actual tests that they're doing, a bunch of different content. There can be videos in here that they link from YouTube as well. Sometimes if they record their testing session, you could see a load breaking something or whatever they're testing. And then to open up the scoring sheet again, let's say this one they did a little bit better on, so we think it's a score of 4, and then another comment in here. Type that comment in. Your comments can be used a couple different ways. I suggest putting a comment in for each score, something that describes why you're scoring it the way you are scoring it. I know one of the ways that that Anne will use your score, your comments, is as a tiebreaker between scores. So sometimes there's very tight scores in the upper portfolios, and your comments can give a little bit more weight and push one up or push one down if they have very, very similar scores. Teachers also might get these comments from student work. We don't give the feedback directly to students, but we let the teachers use that as an instructional tool, and so that can be shared with the teacher, but they'll use their discretion whether to share that with students or not for additional feedback. So let's close that down, go into C and put in a score here as well. So let's say I got a 5, and then the last comment here. So once we've scored it all, this is like going down the sheet of paper on your clipboard, checking off each score for the student work. Then it's time to actually turn it in. So actually turn in your entire clipboard to the scoring table at the science fair. So let's go ahead and click Complete Review. We get a summary page. This is like an Amazon shopping cart summary. We get to see what we're about to purchase or turn in this case. So for element A, we have a score of 3. On B, we have a score of 4, and then C, we have a score of 5. Question marks are there for anything that we haven't filled out. And these question marks count as a score of 0. So if you see a question mark, you should probably go back and put load a score in, and if you want to put a 0, go ahead and intentionally put a 0 in, just so that we know that you intentionally put a 0 instead of accidentally clicking forward and put it as a score of 0. The only thing, I want to jump back and show you one more thing that I forgot to cover. I said if there's no content in a element, put a score of 0. Sometimes students just accidentally submit work that is blank on an element. It happens. It's rare, but you can just put a score of 0. There's nothing in here. Only evaluate each element based on the content within that actual element, so the student work. So don't evaluate C based on something that you know from B. Evaluate each element independently. And the only exception to that rule is M and N. These are holistic portfolio evaluation scores, so students can't actually load content into these. M covers the general presentation. N covers the writing style, writing like an engineer. And so these ones, throughout reading the entire portfolio, you're loading a score in on M and N to reflect the entire portfolio and not the content in M and N, because students actually can't load content. So you can still load, and so there's also no scored examples for these because it's an entire portfolio. So you'll have to just base it on the actual student content. So we can still load a score in here, but it's not relevant to only content in M. It's relevant to content throughout the entire portfolio. So let's go ahead back to that Amazon shopping cart checkout page. Let's just pretend these are all filled out here. So this button here is like, if we're going back to that science fair, let's say you had to mail in your scores instead of turning them in. This is like putting your score sheets in a envelope and putting a stamp on it. This is kind of the final step before you turn in the scores for this portfolio. You put the stamp in by clicking that button, and then once you click this complete review button, you can't take anything back. The scores, that envelope of scores is dropped in the mailbox. You can't take it back. It's finalized. And we do that because Anne needs at a certain point in time after you evaluate on April 15th. She needs to know that all the scores are locked in and final to actually determine the winner for the competition. And so this is how you lock that score in. Click that, put the stamp on there, drop it in the mail by clicking complete review, and then once you click that, you're done. That portfolio is evaluated and the scores are sent in. So it dropped us on this page of reviews. If we can go to my review, on the left-hand menu bar, we can go to my reviews. This is another way we can view all the reviews assigned to you. We can see cracked iPhone screen and see that it is complete here now. When we can see a couple more that are active that we still need to evaluate that we'll do in a future training in this case. We can click on this and see the review again, so we can see all the student work. We can go into each element and see what they've done. But if you notice, we don't have that blue icon in the lower right anymore, so we can't actually change a score or submit a score. We can, however, see the scores that you submitted. So if you click Review Summary, you can see the comment and the score for each element that you already put in, but you can't change them. They're locked in. So you can review the work, but you can't change anything about it. So if we click back to review, let's go back to the competition page and see our progress. If we go to the left-hand menu bar, click Opportunities. Here are the competitions, but you're going to have to click this Past button. Those 2017 competitions are going to show up on this page, but we're going to go into Training Example here, and we can click Reviews. And then once we're in the reviews, we can see now that 2 of 5 are completed. So we got a little bit closer to finishing up, and we can move on to the next active one and do an evaluation there. So that's the process. We could click into there and start evaluating the next one. So that's all I have. The last thing I want to remind you of is that submitting the scores to Anne, clicking that final shopping cart submit review is due by April 15th. So you can complete each one as you evaluate them, or you could start clicking scores for all of your portfolios, and then on April 14th just go in and send each of them in and finalize them. Some judges prefer to do that. Some like to work in sequence, so it's kind of up to you, whatever you want to do. And as last note, I just want to say thank you for judging. These competitions that happen nationally and allow students the opportunity for recognition cannot happen without the work you're putting in to evaluate their work, and that validation from a professional that their work matters and is recognized outside the classroom really does help students, and it's a great thing for them to see their work come outside the classroom. And then you're going to receive 3 documents, including, in addition to this, the training, the YouTube training recording of this training. You're going to receive a PDF, which is a step-by-step guide for judges how to access a portfolio. So where I showed you how to click, this is going to be just a really quick PDF summary of where to click on your screen to find the portfolios assigned to you once you get them assigned on April 1st. You're going to have the reflective questions from the portfolio, and that is kind of the rubric overview of the content, so you can use that to, you can read through it if you want to kind of know what type of things are covered to evaluate on an engineering design portfolio. And then the last thing we're giving you is a very large PDF document, which is the complete ED-PPSR rubric, which is the rubric embedded in the innovation portal for this competition. It's going to be a very large document because all of the text in the right-hand sidebar that we were looking at is going to be included in this document. And we give it to you not because we think you want to read through the entire thing in advance, but some judges like to either print this out and have it on hand so they don't have to use that side menu bar to look at the rubric. They can do it physically, or like if they have two monitors, they can put one monitor up on the side with this PDF document to view the rubric while they're evaluating student work on another monitor. So use as you see fit, or don't use it if you don't need it. And then again, if you have any other questions about the innovation portal using the rubric or have run into any issues, feel free to reach out at innovation@pltw.org. And with that, I will pass it back to Anne.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Elliot. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. I should be sending out that email probably first thing tomorrow morning once I have the recording ready to go. And I just wanted to make a couple comments. You know, sometimes judges are surprised either by the quality of the projects. And so I just will let you know we have about I think we have 125 engineering projects this year. I bet about 75, I'm anticipating about 75 will actually submit to the contest, and I have 66 judges. Of those 75 projects, there are going to be some that aren't at the same level of quality as we'd probably like to see. So I would just say, as you are judging, to stick to the rubric as close as you can and just be consistent, because I can kind of see that then as I look across the scores where some judges fall and take that into account. So it's with 66 judges, there's going to be a lot of variability in the judging also. So just the closer we can stick to the rubric, the better. I have complete confidence that you guys will all do a fantastic job. So I truly appreciate your time, and just encourage you to reach out to me if you have any questions at all. And if you do happen to be one of those people that are going to wait till the 15th to judge, that's totally fine with me. Just send me a quick email to let me know so I'm not too worried that that's to make sure that I just want to make sure all of our portfolios get judged. So with that, we will go ahead and conclude the training. So if you're an engineering judge, you can click off the call. And if you happen to be a biomed judge, just stay on for a few more minutes and I just have a few other comments. Okay, so to the biomed judges, so as the examples that Elliot went through today were based on this engineering design rubric. And this particular rubric was developed through an NSF grant with a lot of in-depth review and testing. And so that's why, and so this was designed first for engineering projects, particular engineering design projects. However, last year, we tried using this with the biomed projects, recognizing that they are more experimental design. And if you look through the rubric, it's basically the same process you would use for an experimental design layout. It's just that it might use a little bit different language. And so what we did this year was we actually took the rubric and we edit it slightly to add some of that experimental design language in there so that it was a little bit more closely followed some of the language that we might use in research. Now, with that said, it's still not exactly, doesn't exactly fit the experimental design process that you might go through, but it's the best that we have right now to use. And in talking with our biomed teachers, they said they wanted to go ahead and use it because it was a good process for their kids to at least have a chance to compete, be a part of the competition. Elliot and his staff at Project Lead the Way are actually going to be working this year with some biomed teachers to create a separate rubric that could be used for the biomed projects. So we hope to see that next year. It's just not quite ready this year. So when I send you the email, please, if you have a moment, to print out the reflective questions and that complete rubric. They will have blue edits in them that just include a little bit more of that experimental design language. The students have the same documents so that they can use that as a reference. But hopefully that will make it a little bit easier for you to apply the rubric to the student work. I will say that we have had some problems with the biomed kids in the past, kind of going through their project without the rubric and then going back and trying to sort of retrofit parts of their project into the rubric. And so if you happen to be reading a student work that just doesn't seem to follow what it's being asked for, that is likely what's happened. And just do the best you can in terms of judging it. You can make a comment in that regard. I will say that the projects that won last year on the biomed side were students that did pay attention to following the rubric and asking or answering the questions that were laid out in those student reflective questions. So we hope that it's going to get better every year as the teachers are more and more comfortable with the rubric. So we anticipate and hopefully hope to see that on the biomed side it will get a little bit closer. But it's not quite as clean. So as you're going through, if you have particular comments about it, please don't hesitate to send me an email. And I had a chance to talk to some of the judges last year and get their feedback, and it's been very helpful. So I think that's it. Are there any questions on the biomed side from folks? Okay, well, very good. Well, thank you all again, and I hope you can join us on April 18th for the showcase and see some of the winning projects. And hope you all have a great day. Thank you.